Do you like the NBA in-season tournament?
I just don't get the point of it.
So, Anthony, I'm in the minority. I love it.
You love it?
I love it.
What is the point of it, though, Craig?
It's something else to compete for. Look, the NFL.
It's a regular game.
Here's the point. The NFL dominates until it's over. And then the NBA is like, hey, we're here. We've been playing for 4 months. Here's the standings. All-Star game. Like, they just kind of show up. And so if the point is, to more directly answer your question, if the NBA were to find a way to become relevant in November, in December, that's great for the NBA. And so what do? If you missed the details over the weekend, they announced this in-season tournament. The games, like, it starts off with group play. So it's 6 total groups, 3 East, 3 West. The winner of each group advances to the tournament phase, as well as the next best team. So it's 1 wild card. In total, 8 teams, 4 from each conference, will advance. It is the actual regular season games. It's not additional games in the schedule, which was always my holdup. I was like, what are they going to do? Have a little mini tournament during All-Star Weekend? Like, what are we doing? How does this work? But it's just the games that are already on the calendar. Reliably, there will be games on Tuesdays and Fridays on the schedule in November. And so those games will serve as group play. They also count in the regular season. So it's not like, say, the NWSL Challenge Cup, which is midweek games, and often it's a chance, which I actually do like. It's a chance for younger players to get some run in non-regular season. It's also part of the culture in soccer more to add midweek games. And, in England, and they have the FA Cup, and in Europe there's all the Champions League stuff. Like, this is actually very normal in other parts of the world, and sometimes it's designed for your non-starters to get some time and some extra competitive games. And then maybe if you make the final, you play your starters. But in this case, it's just regular season games. They just count in 2 sets of standings. So then in December, the one stage I don't get is the quarterfinals, the round of 8, right? Or does everyone go straight to Vegas? Is there a round?
Nah, so the final 4 teams go to Vegas.
Right.
And they'll play on December 7th.
Right, the semifinals and finals. So the quarterfinals is what I don't understand. Is that just a home game, I guess, it's an extra home game in the schedule for the higher seeded teams? So however that works, you have to find a window for one game. And then the finalists, the final 4 teams, go to Vegas December 7th, I think, and then the final is 2 days later on December 9th. It'll be big national TV. It'll be super fun. There'll be a lot of money on the line. It'll feel like a big deal. And it's a way that in the middle of December and for Tuesdays and Fridays in November for NBA games to become more relevant. Competition's fun. Competition's good. Like, I'm in favor of this. Does that mean that it should override, like, if a player's kind of working his way into shape in the regular season? Okay, that's still going to happen. The ultimate goal is still to survive the long season and survive, into June. And I think that there is a little bit of conflict. Like, I'm conflicted there. It is complicated in that I could also see me saying, this is stupid. You have one goal. The goal is to be healthy. You're trying to win as many games as possible. Now you're putting this other incentive. But at the end of the day, like, this is, from a business standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. How do we become more relevant for a larger part of the calendar? This is how. And I think that there is enough time between December, when the finals are, and June or April, when the playoffs start, that if you want to ramp guys up and have them ready and compete and go hard, play 40 minutes in December, fine. And you back off their minutes in January and give them a little bit of a rest. The All-Star break is obviously longer now, so you have a little bit more rest there. So are there always, like, human level complications on putting more load on guys? Yes. But at the end of the day, it's 3 more games, minimal extra travel, because even the semifinals and the finals are in the same spot, and that's 4 teams in the entire league, and 2 of them might be West Coast teams, or, at least 2 of them might be West Coast teams anyway, that are, if it's the Clippers and the Lakers, it's a 30-minute flight to Vegas, whatever that is. So, like, I think it's smart. I think it is very on par with what happens in the rest of the world. And the last thing I'll say is this, Anthony, it will grow on people. While I already saw, like, our guy Sean Marash from WFAN in New York, like, if the Knicks hang a banner for the NBA Cup, like, I'll riot. It's so stupid. And when they first started the FA Cup in Europe or in England, I mean, it was a different time and a different place. It was 100 years ago. But if there was was that the trophy, the one everyone wanted? Or was it this other trophy? Or, if they were to start playoffs in European soccer, teams probably wouldn't care as much, which sounds crazy, but like for 150 years, they've competed in the regular season, and the winner of the Shield is the champion. You play, almost 40 games, and whoever has the best record is the champion. And like, in a lot of ways, frankly, that makes more sense than the silliness that we do, but like, we've created this playoff system, and that's what we're used to. And so over time, the more normalized it becomes, there will eventually be generations of NBA fans who will be like, what do you mean? You saw the first one? We didn't used to have the NBA Cup? And it will grow in prestige that way. It'll take the players taking it seriously, but I think that'll happen because they're competitive. And, ultimately, outside of the knockout phase, the games count too. So it means something.
Yeah, I agree that it's definitely going to bring some notoriety to the NBA. Yes, they do have the Christmas games that sort of compete with the NFL's games around that time, but you do need more. So I think this is a good idea, but I think it's just going to boil down to like whether or not the NBA players care. And I think like during the regular season, we see oftentimes players like I think they're like going through the motion sometimes during the regular season because it is a long season, 82 games.
It is, but also some of the load management. Like, and look, I say this as a health and fitness professional.
Yeah.
Some of the load management stuff is absurd. Like the NBA has a problem.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to load management, and the game is harder and more intense than it ever has been in terms of the demands. And I know people are like, oh, in the 80s, they used to beat each other up. Go watch an 80s game. Go on YouTube and watch the basketball in the 1980s and tell me that it was more physically demanding outside of when Kurt Rambis wanted to take someone's head off than the constant motion and movement, the cutting, the way defenses played, the complexity. Guys used to run up and down the court and then stand there while they tossed it down to someone in the post. The post player would go to work. You couldn't barely double team because the illegal defense rules made it so hard to do anything but play one-on-one. Now you got guys, all these help schemes. Guys are running all over the place. Like, the idea of like a Stephen Curry running around, a million screens, that didn't exist in the 80s, the 70s. This is not how the game was played. The motion offense, like that wasn't a thing for most NBA teams in the 80s and even into the 90s. It was just back to the basket, dump it down. And it doesn't mean like in the 80s, for instance, obviously the Lakers and the Nuggets and some of these teams scored like 130 points a game. It was ridiculous. They were getting up and down the floor, but running in straight lines up and down is very different than what the physical demands on ligaments and stuff that you have now.
Yeah.
That said, listening to some vets talk about it, the lack of practice is the issue now. Is there's too many games, there's not enough practice, there's no way to condition your body and like manage that because you're just in game mode all the time. And then when you're not playing, you want to take the time off. It's just a different, I don't know. It's now over the clock because I went on this gigantic tangent about conditioning. But point is, I think actually playing more and taking it more seriously and having a little bit higher demand to be in shape earlier in the season might cut down on injuries than cause more of them, which is not, I think, why they're doing this. They're doing this because of money, but it might be a nice little side effect, something to watch for. We'll see. But surely someone will eventually get hurt in one of these other games and people will freak out and deal with it then.
This is the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.